Everybody. I hope that you are well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we will be doing our grade 5 English lesson on simple verb tense review. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 5, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of simple verb tenses and simple verb tense review. All right, so our chapter is simple verb tense review. Our subject is English language arts, grade 5. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on is the sentence in the past, present, or future tense? And to form and use irregular past tense. All right. So when it comes to simple verb tenses, right? Not even verb tenses, when it comes to tenses, then usually whenever we hear the word tenses, then we must know it is either present tense, it is past tense, or it is future tense. That is whenever we hear anything about tenses. So it's either present tense, past tense, or future tense. And when we first talk about present tense, right? Present tense is things that is happening now, right? It is something that is happening now. It is happening currently now as we are speaking. It's in the present. It is now. And most of our present tense verbs right? They are regular. And when the present tense verbs are regular, then usually it means that they follow a specific rule, right? The rule can either mean that they have no ending, or they just either end in S or they end in ES. And when it comes to the present tense verb, right, two verbs are irregular, right, in the present tense, and that is to be and to have. And when it comes to the present tense, the two verbs being irregular, you must remember their forms. So you're going to have to remember their forms, and that is going to be the two that is irregular. Then we have our past tense verbs, right? And the past tense verb, it tells us something that has already happened. It's in the past. So anything that even happened this afternoon, this morning, yesterday, it's in the past because it happened already. And most of our past tense verbs, they are regular and they end in ed. And when we say they end in ed, then we can say, for example, played, danced, right? Those are two examples of regular past tense that ends in ed. And then we also have some of our verbs, right? They are irregular in the past tense, right? And the verbs that are irregular in the past tense, they do not follow any rules, right? You are just going to have to remember the form. Because there's no rule that they are following, so you're just going to have to remember the form of that irregular verb. For example, from think now, thought, right? So that is irregular, and as you can see, how the word has changed. And then we also have our future tense, right? And the future tense verb, it tells you about something that is going to happen. So the future tense verb, it tells us about something that is going to happen. Whether it happens later on, whether it happens tomorrow, it is going to happen. And all all future tense verbs, it uses the word will. And since we now spoke about like all the three tenses, right, which is our present tense, we spoke about past tense, and we spoke about future tense, right? We said present tense with irregular verbs. I think they just have their own set of rules. That is why they'll usually say that they don't have any rules that they follow. You are just going to have to know the form of it, right? So you're just going to have to remember how it changes from a present tense to a past tense. That is now um with the irregular verbs. And it's like an example that I made with think and thought, right? So you're basically going to have to know the word, right, or the past tense form that's irregular, right, in order for you to just answer it yourself, right? Because if it's just a regular past tense, right, and then it will end in ed. For example, play. Now, this is regular, right? And this is what they say with all regular with regular verbs, right? They have a rule that they follow, and the rule is that if it's in the past tense, for example, then we add an ed, or we add a d to that word, and that changes the word, let's say, to the past tense form, right? That is a regular verb. But with irregular verb, there's no rule that they follow, because words changes from think to thought, right? um Sit, set, right? It's another irregular verb. um Anyways, but that is so far two irregular verbs, right? So you need to just remember that. Okay, so sit, the past tense of sit is set. The past tense of think is thought. You are just going to have to remember these irregular verbs, because it specifically says it does not have a rule. You will just have to know the form of that verb once it changes, right? With future tense, right? When we talk or when we write, then we use words like I am going to walk, right? But going to walk is basically how we speak informally. So usually what they say with future tense, that is why it says all future tense verbs use the word will, which means that we should actually say that I will walk to school. I will walk to the park, right? So you'll be walking. Unless you can, okay, some people would now also say like I'm going to, right? To the park. So if you on your way to school, you'll say I will walk to school. Or you can just say, like, if you're later on maybe going to play, then you are saying that I'm going to play at the park or in the park. All right. So, for example, like, okay, okay, if we say, for example, going to, right? Going to, I think it's used more like in an action form, right? It's something that is being planned in advance. So, say, for example, you are not saying that you're saying now, which is today, you are saying that tomorrow, right? You're planning something now in advance, and you're now saying that like you're going somewhere. Then you're saying that I am going to the park, right? But then also with will, if you use will again, right? Yes, all future tense uses will, but will can be when you are either something that is planned in advance or something that is not planned in advance, where you can just be like, okay, I'm going to, or I will go to the park at later on. So will basically just express the future as a fact, like, I am going. I am going, like it's no doubt about it, right? That is a fact that is now really just being expressed. Whereas going to, it's like you are deciding on a moment before you even go. So then maybe we can just say, when it comes to will shows certainty that you are going somewhere, or that you are doing something, or you will be doing something. That is more certainty. Whereas I am going to do this. All right. Did that answer your question? All right. Okay. So also, if we look at a few examples, right? If we look at a few examples of, let me spread it out. Oh gosh. Let me do that. Okay, so if we look at a few examples of both present, past, and future, right? If we look at the present tense, right, of a specific word, let me do that and that. Yes. If we look at the present tense form, right? The present tense form, here's a specific word that's in the present. It can either say I walk, or let's say they walk, or or let's it's either walk or walks, right? And in the past tense, so in the present tense, we walk or walks. And in the past tense, remember this is now the regular. This is regular. In the past tense, we walked. Because remember, we said that when you, like the verb in the past tense that is regular, we add ed, right? So either ed or we add d depending on the specific word, right? That is the rule for a regular past tense verb. And then in the future, I will walk, right? So always use will to show the future tense. But now we have our irregular, right? Our irregular verbs. So if we were to say the present tense of the irregular verb would either be go or goes, we add es. In the past, we say went. You see, we don't say goed. We say went. And in the future, you see, will stays the same. Will go. Right? So that is but a few examples of regular and irregular verbs in both present, past, as well as future tense. All right, so now we're going to aplusstudents.ca and we're going to the first lesson, which is the sentence in the past, present, or in the future tense? All right. Yeah, it says, which tense does a sentence use? It says, the children will exchange gifts at the event. You need to say which tense do they use within the sentence. The children will exchange gifts at the event. Is that the present tense, past tense, or future tense? we need to say, is a sentence present tense, past tense, or future tense? What tense are they using? Present tense, past tense, or future tense? It says the children will exchange gifts at the event. And if you specifically look at the word that says will, yes, and then we can say it is future tense. Well done. So will exchange shows that it is future tense. So well done. Future tense it is. Which tense does the sentence use? It says the actor blinks away his tears. The actor blinks away his tears. The actor blinks away his tears. Is that present tense, past tense, or future tense? The actor blinks away his tears. The text is over here. All right, and if we were to choose the correct tense, and then we would say it is present tense, right? It shows us what the actor is doing now. The actor blinks away his tears, and that is in the present tense. Thank you, Matthew. If we look at the next one, Brennan will read his book before bed. Brennan will read his book before bed. We need to say if that is the present tense, the past tense, or future tense. All right, so this is the future tense, right? And especially the word will in front of our verb shows that it is the future tense. So now we're going on to our test where we will say is a sentence past, present, or future tense. And that is correct. Future tense is correct. So we're going to have to say which tense does a sentence use. A tiny creature creeps along the vine. So a tiny creature creeps along the vine. Is this past tense, present tense, or future tense? past tense, present tense, or future tense. So past tense, present tense, or future tense. All right, and if we choose the correct tense, we will say it is the present tense. So well done. Present tense or number 2 is correct. So well done. Carl carefully spelled the word loud. Carl carefully spelled the word loud. Is this past tense, present tense, or future tense? Carl carefully spelled the word aloud. Present tense, past tense, or future tense? Remember, we said in the past tense, the past, the rule for the past tense, it ends with ed. And if we look at this word, spelled, carefully, Carl spelled the word aloud. Sometimes English can be very confusing because we can say Carl spell the word aloud, and that means he spells it now. Or we can say he spelled the word aloud, and that may also seem that it was in the past. Right? That's what I'm saying. English can be very funny because it can be very tricky. So basically, spelled is in the past. Remember, we said the rule for past tense, right, is for regular past tense is that it ends with an ed. That is for a regular past tense. It ends with an ed. No problem, right? But just remember that the rule for a regular past tense is that the verb ends with an ed or it ends with a d, right? All right. The doctor will use a stethoscope for this part. So the doctor will use a stethoscope for this part. Is this the past tense, present tense, or future tense? All right. And if we look at the correct tense, then yes, we can say will, especially the word will over here tells us that it's in the future tense. So well done. Future tense is correct. We eat yogurt and fruit for breakfast. We eat yogurt and fruit for breakfast. Is this the past, present, or future tense? We eat yogurt and fruit for breakfast. All right. What, like if we look at the sentence, it says we eat something that they are doing now, right? So we eat yogurt and fruit for breakfast, right? So we will say that is in the present. All right. Exactly, that is correct. It does not have a will in front of it, so it is not in the future. And eat, right? The irregular past tense verb is of let's say in the past is going to be ate. So eat is correct. It's in the present tense. All right, let's look at the last one. It says Eric stirred the sauce on the stove. Eric stirred the sauce on the stove. Is that past, present, or future tense? All right. And if we look at the correct verb, we're going to say it's in the past because it's stirred, right? All right. So well done. Past tense is correct. Option one is correct. So well done. Now we're going on to the second one. We're going to form and use the irregular past tense. Remember, when it comes to the irregular past tense, there is no rule that they follow. We can't say you need to add ed or d to a specific word, right? With irregular past tense, it's like the word changes, right? For some reason, the word changes. And here they say most verbs are regular in the past tense, right? And if verbs are regular in the past tense, it means you need to follow a rule like adding ed or following d to get the past tense form, right, of that specific verb. Some verbs are irregular in the past tense. That means that you don't follow any rule. Instead, you must just remember the past tense form of that verb, right? And I had the discussion earlier where I said that with, pardon, with regular verbs, we basically just add D or ED. And with irregular verbs, this basically you're just gonna have to remember it, right? There's no rule that we can tell you that you need to follow. You're just going to have to remember what the past tense form of that verb is, right? In an irregular way. So, for example, Jacob lost his keys, right? And lost is a irregular past tense, right? So lost is an irregular past tense because lost, it forms from lose. So lose is now in the present, but in the past he lost it. So do you see how that word changes? The same with drew. Haley drew a picture, right? So in the present, Haley draws a picture, but in the past, Haley drew a picture. So now that wording changes, whether it is only one letter in that word, but the word changes. All right. So the same with draw, right? We said the past tense irregular is drew. Alex bought a gift, right? And bought is the irregular past tense of buy. So I buy cologne. Last week, I bought a bag, right? So it changes from buy to bought. And then we can say Zoe wore her boots, right? And in the past, it basically derives from wear. I wear my boots now. Yesterday, I wore the other boot, right? So do you see how the wording changes when it comes to the irregular past tense verb? Whereas the regular verb, it has a rule where it says ed or d. All right. So now we're going to this first sentence. It says, complete the sentence with the verb in the past tense. In the past tense. It says Jennifer freeze water to make ice. Jennifer freeze water to make ice. What is the past tense of freeze? All right. So what is the past tense of freeze? All right. So it says Jennifer freeze water to make ice, right? Yes. And the past tense of freeze, we can say Jennifer froze water to make ice. So froze is correct. So yes, froze is correct. So froze shows the irregular past tense verb, right? So freeze to froze. Yes, well done. Froze is correct. All right. It says, my family think Cedarburg was a great city to visit. My family think. We need to give the irregular past tense of the word think. Think. My family think Cedarburg was a great city to visit. So think. Yes. Remember, think is also an irregular past tense verb, right? So if we change think, right, and then it can be thought. We can say it's thought. So well done. Thought is correct. Thought is correct. And that is an irregular past tense verb, right? And lastly, the rose's thorn tear Justin's sleeve. The rose's thorn tear Justin's sleeve. We need to get the either referral. We need to get the past tense form of the word tear. All right. So we said roses, thorns. It tore, not tear, but it tore. Right. So that is now the end of our lesson. This is now the end of our lesson, grade 5. Thank you very much for joining our class on simple verb tense review. I really hope that you do have a better understanding of the different verb tenses and what and how it changes, right? So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you're going to have a good evening further. Goodbye. All right.